need some help. So I'm wondering if some of the young gentlemen towards the back can just either come up the front or just be listening and ready to shout out an answer. Okay? So, I've got 3 things. Actually, I've got 4. Skydiving, having your first child, signing the papers on a home loan, learning to swim. What do you reckon they have in common?
They're all terrifying.
Stress, anxiety, terrifying. Yeah, they're all terrifying. They're all things you might really want to do, but looking forward to them might be really scary or painful. Let's have a think about them a little bit more. Some people think that putting on a parachute and jumping out of a plane sounds like fun. Not me, but I get a bit nervous changing a light bulb. If you'd like to go skydiving but you've never done it, I bet that the day you first try it, you would wake up with butterflies in your stomach. You'd be so nervous travelling to the airfield, and you'd be really twitchy on the plane on the way up. Someone might have to push you out of the plane. But then you'd open the parachute and you'd glide on the wind and you'd enjoy the view and the peace. And when you got back to land, you'd be exhilarated. It was the best thing ever. I imagine that if a young couple are looking forward to having their first child, it's a bit the same. We really want this baby, but as mum's tummy gets bigger, so do the nerves. What will having the baby be like? Especially for the mum. Will I be able to cope? Will the pain be too much for me? What if I do it wrong? But then the baby arrives, and mum and dad sit with their precious little bundle and realise that all the fear and the pain were worth it. This is the best thing ever. When my grandpa was little, he wanted to learn to swim, and he lived near a river, and in that town, how you learned to swim was your dad or your uncle chucked you in the river. And they waited to see that you got out okay. So to get the fun of playing in and around the river, he had to go through the scary ordeal of being thrown in it. Can you think of any other examples? Can you think of anything where there's something you really want to do, but to get there you have to go through something scary or difficult? Public speaking, yeah. Oh, yes, getting your driving test. I suspect doing the spelling bee in front of all those people. Yeah. Well, in the gospel reading this morning, Jesus is talking about a whole lot of really scary things. He's talking about a day when not one stone will be left on top of another in the temple. Now just imagine that for a sec. I don't know if you saw on the news when Notre Dame was on fire in Paris. It was scary and horrible. And the roof collapsed. But the firefighters did a wonderful job. And actually, most of the stones of Notre Dame are left where they should be, on top of each other. In contrast, Jesus is talking about complete destruction. And he's not just talking about the temple. He's talking about the end of this age, the day when he returns. Because he tells them, don't be led astray. People are going to show up and say, I'm Jesus, and they'll be lying. He mentions a lot of scary things: wars, earthquakes, great signs from heaven, whatever they might be, getting arrested, being put in prison, people being hated because they love Jesus, some people even being killed. And you might ask, what on earth would make all that happen? It sounds even scarier than skydiving. Why would anyone willingly go through really scary stuff like that? And I think that people who were listening to Jesus that day might have wondered the same thing. Well, Jesus gave us a hint at the end of the gospel reading. He said, even if you are killed, not a hair on your head will perish or die. So, if you're killed, you won't die. It doesn't make any logical sense. But there is a logic there. And we'll understand it a lot better if we think back to that reading from Isaiah that Robin read for us so well. God was speaking through the prophet Isaiah, reminding the people that he's still sovereign. He's still their king, even though they forget it sometimes. And God the King wants his people to persevere in trusting him. Through thick and thin, whatever happens, he wants us to talk to him and love him back right till the end of our days. And in this morning's reading from Isaiah, we saw one reason why we should do that. Because God is creating a new heavens and a new earth, a new everything. A place where people will delight to be. A place so good, even a perfect God will rejoice in it. Have you ever played with a really cute puppy? I know we have some dog lovers here. Super cute puppy. All right. How excited is that puppy? They run round and round and round. They flip on their back so you can scratch their tummy. They don't really understand what their tail is yet, so they keep getting confused by the fact that they're wagging so much. How does that puppy make you feel? That kind of beautiful, pure joy is the same feeling that God will have looking at us in his new creation. And while I don't want to suggest that we're going to turn into dogs, I think that probably the way the puppy is will be a bit like how we are looking at God in his new creation. In that place, sadness and sickness won't even be a distant memory. There won't be broken families or broken bones. It's a place of wholeness and peace. And the picture that Isaiah paints for us is of a farmer who sits on his or her veranda, having done the work of putting in the olive trees and cared for them. He's planted, or she, has planted the grapevines and watered them. And we've got water today. Isn't that wonderful? And then they sit there enjoying the oil and the wine and all the good things, surrounded by a loving family, enjoying a long, fruitful life. Doesn't that sound wonderful? But it's not just our relationships with one another that will be transformed. Do you ever try to pray and get distracted? Or wonder if God's actually hearing? In the new heavens and earth, our relationship with God will be perfected too. Isaiah says, before the people even call, God will answer. Imagine feeling so in sync with God that you knew that even as you were asking, your prayers were being answered. Wholeness and joy and peace. But it gets even better than that in the new creation. The world itself will be restored. Pollution won't be a problem. Climate change won't be on the news. Wholeness and peace will extend even to the environment. The wolf and the lamb will eat together instead of eating each other. The lion will eat straw, not meat. And the serpent, the snake who we met in the Bible story right back in the Garden of Eden, the snake will eat dust. Can you see this is a massive change? A total reversal of so many things we just think of as normal. Natural enemies will be at peace. Death itself will die. The serpent, finally condemned and powerless. Wholeness these two bits of the Bible connect? Remember at the start of the talk, we thought about things like skydiving or having your first kid, learning to swim. Things that are difficult as you head towards them, but wonderful when fulfilment comes. Some of us are going through hard times now. Some of us can see hard times in our future. And we can all see troubles in the world around us. Later in the service, we're going to sing a hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. The big idea of this song is that whatever happens, I'm okay. And the man who wrote this hymn knew what he was talking about. His name was Horatio Spafford. Horatio's an awesome name. And he was a rich guy who lived in America 150 years ago. He had a wife, 4 daughters and a son. He lost lots of his money in a stock market crash. Then his baby son died. Then there was a massive fire in Chicago and most of what he had left was gone. Then he put his wife and 4 daughters on a boat to England for some time away from all the disaster. On the way to England, the boat sank and his 4 daughters were drowned. He got on another boat to go and meet his wife and grieve with her. And as the boat went over the place where his daughters had drowned, he wrote the song we're going to sing. So this was not a guy who knew no suffering. And he was able to say, whatever happens, it is well with my soul. All those difficult things that we've thought of that Jesus talked about, they're all signs that Jesus really needs to return and really will return. And at his return, he will turn everything upside down. There will be a new everything, a beautiful, whole, peaceful everything, where we are in perfect relationship with God, with one another, and with the world. We can trust Jesus that is true. And just like the baby in its mother's arms makes the pains of labour totally worthwhile, that joy, that wholeness, that peace is absolutely worth it. May the Lord be with you.